Good afternoon, all. On behalf of SICKI and Sri Venkateshwara College of Engineering, I'd like to welcome all the uh, students for today's event on PEAK, the session 3, which we are doing it on blockchain technology. I'd also like to welcome all the eminent speakers for today. And before we start, I'd like to talk something a little bit on SICKI. What is SICKI? SICKI, it's Southern India Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and it is a 11-year-old industry body serving as a bridge between the industry and the government. The chamber was founded in 1909 under the inspiration of Mahatma Gandhi. And now we have about 25 sectoral committees through which we do regular events, B2B meetings, government interactions, expos, CXO conclaves, etc. And SICKI has also initiated several projects under industry department. We are working on to create an electric vehicle center for excellence in Chennai. Also, we are working with the Department of Culture to build an industry museum in Egmore. Another project which we are working on is in Metro, set up a readers launch in Metro Rail in Chennai Central. And also, we are in the process of launching an SICKI Startup Exchange, which will create a common platform to integrate all incubators and startup. So before I go into the session today, I'd like to tell few points which if the participants, if you have any questions in your mind, I request you to kindly post it in the chat box. Since we have kept you all muted, I request you to post all the your questions in the chat box, and which will be answered by the speakers by end of the session today. I'd like to introduce the speakers for today. The moderator for today's session is Mr. George Koshi. He's the chair for SICKI Employability Committee, and he's the director of Learning and Development and SICKI Technology Limited. He's a leadership coach and has about 25 years of experience as a learning specialist in domain ranging from manufacturing, assessment centers, consulting, and information technology. He has worked with Kevin Care, Infosys, Servian Global Solutions, Hyundai Motors, and now he's currently heading the learning and development functions of SIFI, which is an information communication technology company. And we have another the panel speaker for today, Mr. M.V. Subramanian. He's the executive committee member of SICKI, and also he chairs the SICKI Technology Committee. He's a founder and managing director of Future Focus Private Infotech Private Limited. He is a lead investor and member of India Angel Network, and he's a director of Native Lead, where he contributes to investment, mentoring, and governance. We welcome you, sir, for today's session. I'd like to also introduce another panel speaker for today, Mr. Babu Samayapuram Sudhindar Raju. He's a business solution group manager of Terminos Singapore. He's an expert on fintech trends in the field of banking models, payment disruption, cloud tech impact, open banking, data-driven UX. And also he's a regional architect in solution design and consulting with a great focus on sales alignment and value selling. We welcome you, sir, for today's session.
Thank you.
I'd like to welcome another speaker for today, Mr. Kameshwaran Ilangovan. He's a COO and co-founder of Guardian Link. So he's an entrepreneur who strives to make difference in blockchain market. He started his first company when he was in college, and his entrepreneur thirst has grown till now, till ages. And his engineering background and a strong record of managing a highly diverse workforce combining into PenChat for working with future-proof technologies made him a co-founder of this blockchain company in 2016 that went on to become what is Guardian Link today. It is a truly global in its reach and impact. I'd like to welcome all the speakers and the moderator for today, and I'd like to hand over the session to Mr. George Koshi to take over. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, William. Thanks a lot. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot. And so good afternoon all, and good afternoon students and all the panel speakers. Thank you, William, for probably introducing all of us. So I would like to thank Southern Indian Chamber of Commerce and Industries and Sri Venkateswara College of Engineering for partnering and helping the students in probably bringing out some of these discussions, every month. And it's called a SPEAK program for engineers, advanced knowledge. And every this panel discussion, we are discussing on some technology, and I hope that it is helping all the students as well. So let me give a kind of probably I'm very happy today because the kind of experts that we have to discuss on blockchain is like really good. The mix that we have in terms of demographics. We have somebody who is a millennial also in this group. Like possibly look at the way he's dressed, Kamesh, and also we have baby boomers who's tried and tested, who's been in business, and also in terms of roles. If you see, like it's a good mix that we have. Probably Kamesh is somebody who's a technical expert here, who's hands-on with technology, and you have Subramaniam, who's like a consumer of this technology, and Babu, who's into selling this technology. So I think we have a good kind of spectrum here, and so it's pretty nice, and I'm looking forward to having a very meaningful discussion today. So I mean, blockchain. I'm absolutely zero in technology. Probably I have a flair for technology. I love technology, but then I'm not. I don't have any background on technology. So possibly I'm relying on all the on all the panelists to get some probably for me to understand and for the audience to understand what blockchain is. So from my, I mean, probably I did some kind of search on Google before wanting to actually moderate this session. So I got to understand that blockchain is a buzzword these days, and also it's a when I was probably when I started my career. And IT was just starting up, information technology was starting up, and those days I've heard of words like SQL, database, RDBMS, and all those things. And I also understood that those were very important. And now we are hearing about big data, where there's an unstructured way of storing data. And now we have something called blockchain, and probably they will deconstruct what blockchain is for us. So the first question, I mean, probably I would like to do it this way, and every time, and I now on all the panel discussion, the first question is open to all, and each panel member can probably take 2 to 3 minutes and respond to this question. And the question is very simple in terms of blockchain has been a buzzword, and we have heard of a lot of other terminologies like AI, like machine languages and things like that. You talk about robotics, and even blockchain has been a kind of a buzzword. So why blockchain? Why is it important? And also a little bit of history on blockchain, and also something if you can talk about the future of blockchain as well in the next 2 to 3 minutes. Each one of you can take 2 to 3 minutes and talk about it. Yes. Over to the panel speakers. Who's going first?
Kamesh, would you like to start, or?
You should start, sir. You are the senior.
Yeah. That is not the way it has to work here.
Okay.
There are no rules here. Anybody can start.
Yeah, probably I can start.
Rules here. Yeah.
Because I'm a consumer, because I'm not the person who's practitioner.
Subramani, how do you like yourself being called, like
MVS.
money or
MVS?
MVS? Okay, all right. Thanks.
Thank you very much. And thanks, George, for the introduction. Williams also for the kind introduction. And this blockchain word, when I heard the same time I met Kamesh in maybe 6 years back, he was running a company called Blockchain App. That is the time I went in search of how can I utilize this blockchain for something which I wanted to solve in a HR industry? So that is why I went and met him. That is the first time I started looking at how does this blockchain suddenly become important? Is there anything which we can consume, and can we make it work for our any of the problems which we have, which can be looked at a buzzword for the company, as well as people start listening to what we are trying to do in a blockchain. Initially, I thought it may not be a perfect solution. I did not assume it, but I thought I should use it so that that application and the company will become much more visible for others. But over a period of time, last 6 years, again I met him maybe 8 months back. I met Kamesh again to understand, but he has actually progressed from where I saw him and where he is today. Then I started again understanding from him what is he doing, what is he really trying to solve, and all that. But in the meanwhile, I also gathered more information on by reading, by looking at YouTube, and then problems which I have in hand, and probably what I wanted to solve. And that gave me a picture of what does a blockchain addresses to. If you have any issue which probably you wanted to have a solution or the application built with the background of a database, which you feel that you should have trustworthy, a kind of an environment, as well as a decentralized, where there is nobody controls how this trust has to be established, and no audit is required for this trust has to be established. And if you wanted to have any application surrounding that, probably something which comes into our mind is blockchain. But if I go and ask any of the technology people, they keep saying that all these technologies are available long back, but it is only repackaged in a different way. But that is, it's a kind of debate. It doesn't, we do not have to go back to the what was previously what was available, because the people who used mainframe, they come back and say that, oh, monolithic systems were there and now it got separated. Then now they are trying to build it back into a cloud, and now they are trying to build it back as a still big monolithic ecosystem. So they have a very different perspective to look at. But simply to put forth what I look at is, if you wanted to have a very decentralized, trustworthy application where nobody needs to have control, but still you can do business with some of the applications, I think top of the mind is a blockchain which comes into our mind. So I have now many use cases. Now I'm looking at startups which is doing in the blockchain, and I missed investing in Kamesh's company, but still he will be happy that if I say that I would like to invest, but he has grown big. So this is something which probably happening in the blockchain world. But what we hear from outside is crypto. It's one of the use cases of the blockchain. But without crypto, the blockchain is not going to be very, very functional for us, even in future. So this is going to go together even futuristically. That is what I understand. I leave to the other speakers to talk about it.
Thank you, MVS. In fact, the keywords that you mentioned was trust, and probably, I mean, which also adds to security. You know, if we want to have a secure environment, also probably that's how trust is built.
And decentralized.
And decentralization as well. And one of the use cases that you mentioned is crypto. I'm sure, like, you know, the other speakers would have their own applications as well. And I know what Kamesh is doing. Like, you know, most of the youngsters would like what he is doing, because it's more on gaming actually. So probably he can share his thoughts. Yes.
Yeah. So I think I can give some real-time, examples, right? Right now, your 10th and 12th mark sheet, right? Let's take, you take 1,100 in 12th, right? The database what we manage right now, school may have one database, and then like central body of government will have one database, right? So both are RDBMS, maybe MySQL or SQL. So if you change this record in both the place, that is what is going to be your markers. So that is the way technology right now runs, right? We purely depend on the relational database structure, right? The relational database structure is more like, so we can control it, right? If a government think, so right, or this particular education body thinks we want to change the rank, they will not do. But if there is option that the technology is not trustful, why? Because that database is something is centralized, where if you want, you can change it in the DB, so that is going to be your future or career. So data is very important for everyone. So we all know, right? So what is your mark and what is your academics, all decides the future of everyone. So how we can keep keep the same technology for so long, like same relational database, so SQL. So it depends on the table, right? So that is something where blockchain is trying to progress. I would say a blockchain is more like a type of a shared database where these informations are stored in a blocks. Right? There is a in the blockchain there is a separate people. If you Google it in the name of blockchain, you'll see separate blocks linked with the chain. So that is what I'm trying to explain. So in this, whatever data which we want to store, so which we can store in a format called block. Every block will have a relationship with one more block. It linked with a timestamp. So that, what will happen, every block, any new data comes, there will be a new block will be created and then linked with the old block. So there will be a series of chain blocks will be there. So that what will happen, any data, if you change in one block, it requires other blocks authentication. So it now the other blocks it is a distributed database, the same database owned by many of the people. So technically what will happen, any one place if we change, the everyone have to authorize it, then only the database update is possible. So that is the basic understanding of which I can compare with RDBMS and I can explain. So this is called blockchain. So blockchain is nothing but a shared database, right, which is there are lot of small, I would say, instead of table there is going to be blocks. In MySQL we used to manage tables. In blockchain we're going to have a blocks. Every blocks will carry some data which will link with the other block, so that all the transactional data, something that we can keep it on each block, everything is have a relational block relational chain relationship with all the blocks, so that we can't change the data as one person decides. Right, RBI governor decides I want to change something, he can go and change in a database. That is the reality of our structure right now, not in our country, across the world. Everything is centralized. So how to make it decentralized is what everyone think, right? We don't want to purely depend upon the centralized body always, right? That's why this Bitcoin came into the picture. It became a very big decentralization. Why government have to print money? So, right, because government can print money whenever they want. So recently in the COVID situation, what happened? Government print more than 40% of more circulation in USD to the new circulation to the world. So what happened? Because of that, lot of inflation happens, because whenever they think they can print more notes and give it to the circulation. That is the way it's structured. All depends upon all the challenges right now what we see in the world because of the centralization. If you take example of Google, Amazon or Uber, all are like centralized company. So they take 80-90% of the market share. If you take Netflix, they take the entire market share on the movie industry. If you take a travel industry, Uber takes the complete market share. If you take Airbnb, so I think the centralization, what is happening, they take the entire market. If you take example of Google Map, so wherever I travel using Uber, I have to pay through Google Map. So that is the way it's all structured. So 90% of Google Maps market is controlled by Google. So all the big centralized companies are trying to take a complete control of this internet. Internet is actually created for a decentralization. Unfortunately, we were seeing three progress now. One is Web 1. And the Web 1 is all about like just reading the website, and in early 2000 we used to see websites and everything. It's called Web 1. I'm just trying to explain the evolution of web technology. Web 2, it is all about we see Facebook started from Orkut, Facebook, and all other interactive websites and dynamic applications. What we see right now is called the Web 2. The Web 3 is totally application which we totally depend upon trustless system like blockchain. That's called Web 3. So the very good use case for Web 3, I would say Bitcoin is one of the interesting use case that a lot of people got awareness about blockchain because of the Bitcoin boom that happened, right? It started in cents and it went to $60,000 and it made many people billionaires. So a lot of this kind of things happen. So the fundamental of Web 1, Web 2, Web 3. So we are in the revolution of Web 3 now. So Web 2 already we see all the big companies like Amazon, all the top companies have taken a very good market shares on Web 2. Web 3 is, is by the people and for the people kind of approach, more like a community approach. So community can build it. It's not about one single founder can build everything, right? It's a community all together work for it. They take the benefit of it out of it. If you take example of Uber, they given a lot of incentivization and everything to onboard drivers initially. What happened is a centralized company. Okay, they made a choice. Hereafter, there is no, we can't give anything. The price of each, kilometer is this, and then you have to pay 20% to us, right? All the drivers are became so addictive, and by getting passive revenue from Uber. Uber suddenly made a call that one day I'm going to, cost this much, 20%. So if a driver pays 20% to Uber, so you can't make any money in between. It is almost like it's going for employment. So you can't be a own business owner, right? So that is the way the numbers are packaged to favors one centralized company called Uber. So if imagine if it is a Web3, what will happen? Community will decide it. All the drivers will vote what kind of price we can put take from the customer, what is nominal. So all the community members will try to decide the price, and then it will be run by the community. So that what will happen? It will become like a people will make money, right? So someone sits somewhere, they will make money just getting into this Web3 evolution. So that is what is going on. I can give one more interesting example also that everyone can even understand. Let's say whatever content we post on TikTok, on Instagram, and everything. All right, we put a lot of effort to generate the content, right? So we took, many people used to do TikTok videos and Instagram reels and everything. But the end of the day, the application owns all the content, not the actual user. If I want to ban you, what happened with TikTok, right? Indian government thought, okay, TikTok is unfavorable to India, they removed it, right? Instagram believes I don't want your profile, they will remove you. So the content and effort, what you really you invested to make this, that you are not owning single percentage of the content. Application owns the content, end of the day. So the Web3 evolution is where you can own the content. If you want, you can take out the content from this platform and you can always move to any other platform. You can own this content. Every content is going to be NFT. So the blockchain NFT use cases are something where it's a revolution in Web3 space that I think we are going through this interesting revolution today. So that is something where I can give a basic understanding about blockchain with the real-time scenario. Yeah, I think.
Thank you, Kamesh. That was quite interesting and quite elaborate. You elaborated really well. You touched upon Web 1, Web 2, and Web 3, and you talked about why decentralization is important. And you also touched upon NFT, which is non-fungible tokens. Probably you have kept something interesting things later so that, because I mentioned gamings and things like that, you wanted to probably talk about it later. And
Yeah.
you also talked about the application where it's applied. You talked about various organizations like Uber and Amazon and things like that, and large organizations like this. So the next speaker that we have he's from BFSI. So he's from banking and finances company. So I'm sure that money is all the most important part. We're talking about crypto and bitcoins. Let's hear from him what he has to say in terms of how probably why why blockchain when it comes to banking and finance sector.
Thank you, George. Is my line clear, George?
Yes, Babu, go ahead.
Okay. Firstly, I just want to thank you for the organization to invite me to be part of this panel. I'm pretty excited, not as a speaker, but more of a listener. As an audience, as a student, I really want to understand from MSV sir and Kamesh, who has accomplished quite a lot in this space versus what I've done in this space. So I think Kamesh has perhaps answered most of the questions that are there in people's mind, in the audience mind, via this long explanation. So I'll try to add my 2 cents on why blockchain, right? So why not something else, and why blockchain? And this is normally a question every time a new technology comes into the light and it gets popular. The first question in everybody's mind is, why do I need to use blockchain? Why can't I use the older technology like the new latest AirPods came, people bought a lot of AirPods and wireless earpods. I mean, while the wired, like headphones like this was perfectly working, people went ahead and bought a lot of wireless AirPods. So whenever a new technology comes, there will be definitely a lot of adoption in the public space based on what they think the benefits are. So everything has to really come back to the benefits of the end user, right? So I think that's the number one point that I wanted to highlight. Secondly, if you go back in time in terms of where it really started, who actually introduced the concept of blockchain to the market, it is somebody, a Japanese, in fact, in 2008, by the name of Mr. Satoshi Nakamoto. So he, in fact, is the one who actually published a white paper on Bitcoin, right? So he was the first one to bring the concept of what could a decentralized protocol could look like. Because of the existing challenges with the existing way how businesses are run, how the information is managed, who actually owns the data, because of those challenges, he was trying to find a way of how do I put together a protocol to implement a decentralized way of owning the data and managing the data. And one of the reasons he did was he was very sort of unhappy with paying money to his friend. Whenever it comes to exchanging money or exchanging goods, it always have to go through a third party, right? So whenever a trade that needs to happen, it always need to go via a third party. And what is the problem with that? Is there any problem? Yes, there is a problem. The problem is that the third party actually takes a cut out of that particular transaction, right? And he actually decides what the cut is because he's enabling a transaction to happen between two parties. That particular intermediary, the third party, actually decides, what sort of, profit or any benefit that he wants to take away. So that's the first thing that happens in the transaction. The third party decides what he wants to take out of. Only the remaining part is exchanged between these two parties. So he had a fundamental issue with this concept of somebody else deciding and taking a value of, every time a transaction happens between two parties. So that's where the whole motivation started. How can I design a system where two people can exchange their value without any control of what third party should do in that transaction? So he wanted to eliminate the role of an intermediary when two people, trade or two people exchange value. So that was really the fundamental of why, the blockchain got hugely popular, because going back to Kamesh's reference on Web2 was really about platform economy, right? What do I mean by platform economy? People loosely have defined what a platform is. So let me properly define what a platform is. From an academic perspective, what a platform is. A platform is a one that allows two different users or two different user groups to interact with each other. That's really the fundamental definition of a platform. So you could take an example of Uber, you can take an example of Airbnb, social media, where it lets the users of that particular platform to interact with each other. And through that interaction, the underlying platform owner takes or runs a business out of it by letting two people talk, by letting two people ride, take a ride or renting their place, right? And because of this, the whole economy was built on the platforms. Majority of the $1 trillion companies today are platform companies, like even AWS, Azure. What do? They really do platform where you have a company who comes and takes advantage of the underlying computing and builds applications and run it for somebody else. So everything, the economy model has already become highly a platform-centric model. So the real benefiter of this particular model is the underlying platform owners. So just to align with the reasons of why this was created is to see how the third party, the intermediary, can be controlled. That's where the protocol comes into place. The protocol actually decides who can make the decision in a given community of users of a particular network, right? So that's where the 51% majority, takes ownership of making every change in the blockchain and so on, right? So as a result, what has happened is that whatever email did to the internet is what Bitcoin is doing to the blockchain. So using the blockchain, the first use case they managed to implement was Bitcoin, and followed by Ethereum and many such players. So because the motivation was to exchange goods without the third party intermediary, the first use case that was implemented was Bitcoin. All right. So that was the background that I wanted to add in a very simplistic way of the role of a blockchain is to really control who is the third party and intermediary and how much he will benefit whenever two users interact with each other. Yeah. Hope that gives a little bit more clarity on this, George.
Thank you, Babu. That was very useful. In fact, you deconstructed the term blockchain really well. You also spoke a little academically, and I'm sure that the students would have really liked that in terms of like, and gave some examples as well. You went into the history as well, who's behind blockchain and who published the white paper or who brought this concept itself. So you mentioned that what email did to the internet in terms of, I'm sure that, you know, when we grew up, we saw technology growing and the technology advancement in terms of emails, and you also defined the Web 2, what Web 2 is all about, what is platform. And I'm sure that, you know, it was pretty useful, and I learned a lot from what you just said now. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
All right. So just wanted to, in fact, elaborate on what Kamesh was saying. You talked about the evolution of web technology. You spoke about Web 1, Web 2, and Web 3. All right. So if you could elaborate more on that, that would be very helpful, Kamesh, for the students. Can you just spend more time on what Web 1, Web 2, and Web 3, and how is it relevant these days?
Yeah. So I think I would say that, you know, I think people can understand about Web 2 very well because we are in a Web 2 revolution, right? The guys who college students who are hearing, they all know about Web 2, right? Every application, whatever they use, right? Every product they use, everything is Web 2 product. All depends upon, you know, relational database, right? We don't see any product right now in a real use case of Web 3, right? I would say Bitcoin is one of the example. Right, but this more is like a financial, you know, element, right? It is not like a application. We can't see any application like Uber or you know, or Facebook or any applications on using, you know, blockchain technology. We are not seeing it. Twitter is trying to pilot on it right now. So Twitter is really working to convert their Web 2 Twitter application to, you know, Web 3 application, purely more like a blockchain you know, a database structure they want to use. They are piloting that. So the saddest part is, you know, there is no lot of use case around it in a real world application that, you know, every college person can understand. But I can try to give an example that the real use case what I see in Web3 right now, I can see on the NFTs, non-fungible token. Non-fungible token is more like I would say every token is unique. Right? If you take a Bitcoin and Ethereum, all the tokens are fungible, right? Nothing is non-fungible. So non-fungible token, it's able to represent any digital asset. It is a very interesting use case. For example, our COVID vaccine certificate, right? That is something we are maintaining in a relational database right now. Other country maybe if you enter to the different country, they may not even trust that. If I show here is my COVID vaccine, so many countries are not even you know, accepting that. So because it is a country's database, right? So how they can trust? So that is the way even the other country thinks. So where the problem of, you know, blockchain can give a solution here. Your COVID vaccine, every COVID vaccine certificate can be in one NFT. So it is a distributed database so that everyone can trust. We can't change that. So all this kind of benefits comes to the table. So I would say the evolution of Web3 more lies right now on the gaming world. Right, there is a new emerging, you know, I think before 10 years I can remember. So I think in 2010, now I was telling my mom that I'm trying to do I think, you know, 13 years back, I think. So I was telling my mom that I'm trying to do something on social media, and then, like, you know, I'm trying to market things on Facebook, and then, like, I was trying to tell I'm going to do some YouTube videos and everything. So everyone laughing. So, like, what I'm saying, your profession is going to be just posting something on social media and then, like, you know, building a YouTube channel or do you think this is a profession, or like how can you build such kind of profession? So my mom is saying, go finish the engineering and just go to the job. So what happened right now? I think there is no such term called YouTuber before 10 years, right? So we never know. There is one term called YouTuber, right? Right now, people say I'm a YouTuber, right? So they make tons of money. So right, even right now, we spend millions of money on YouTubers who are actual influencers, right? The TV media, right? If we are not interested to give ad on Sun TV or Star TV, right? We were even very interested to work with the very big YouTubers who can really influence and take this concept to the people. So the world is changed completely. So YouTubers make money millions and billions now. So it's become a profession right now. If people can say I'm a social media marketer, I'm a YouTuber. So that is a lot of new professions came. Very similar to that in the next 4 5 years, what we see gamers is going to be a profession. Many people say, what is your profession? You can say, you can expect, I'm a gamer. So I'll make money just playing games. So that is the way the new profession will come up. So that is the way we are able to predict things now. So the new tech evolution which we see in Web3, it is play to earn games. So people can, buy, digital assets, and then already people are buying it. So the $15 billion worth of digital assets already people buying through games, and the in-game assets and everything, right? People used to buy guns and skins and everything to play the game just for the pleasure. They will not get anything. They will not get anything after that, right? If they update the new game, this assets has no value. The digital asset is done. So because there is no ownership or there is no trackability, you can't sell that asset. Well, let's say if I buy a gun, right? I'm playing it, played for 10 matches in a game. Then if I want to sell that gun to someone, I can't do it because there is no such technology right now available. Because of the blockchain and NFT, so they're able to identify this particular gun belongs to this owner as a record in blockchain. So what will happen? We will know the record system online, so that people are trying to buy the same gun. The retrading of NFTs are possible now. So the retrading new economic game. If you buy, in-game asset, right? So then you played the game. So if you want to sell it, you can again sell it, right? So that kind of new emerging technology is coming up. So that's why we see already the games like Axie Infinity. I know one guy from Velur, right? He play only Axie Infinity game for his whole life in the COVID situation. He made every month 5 lakhs, right? So his life is completely changed by just playing Axie Infinity alone. Right. So that is the way the play to earn games and NFT and blockchains are playing a very important role. So people anyway spending time on games. So why can't you monetize it, right? You're spending time and effort and everything. So that is something, it's going to be the evolution of Web3, which everyone can understand easily. Or else other topics will be even boring. If I say about, medicines and vaccines and, HR and other things, maybe students will not really like it. I think I would say NFTs are very good use case on the gaming world. I think, we launching an interesting cricket game where, people can play cricket and then earn rewards out of it. So they can earn money just playing cricket, right? That's the reason we launched a platform called Jump.trade, where, people can buy these NFTs, play the cricket every day, and then they can get the rewards, and then they can trade the NFTs, sell the NFTs once they're done. A very interesting use case we are trying to build. So yeah, I see there is a lot of scope on, play to earn games, which is going to be a very good use case for Web3.
So thanks, Kamesh, for that.
One interesting point that, recently that's the reason Facebook is changed name to Meta. They
Metaverse.
strongly believe the NFTs is going to be future. That's the reason, so they change the name to, Meta. So Meta means metaverse. So it's a new world of NFTs.
Thanks, Kamesh. That was quite, say, like intriguing as well for me. Like talking about the power of NFT. Though I have a kind of a doubt on gaming and things like that, probably I'll keep that question a little later. Probably I'll move to MVS. See, because you are an investor, and I'm sure that you're investing on various organizations. You're a founder of a large organization, and into staffing as well. So probably what would be something that you would relate to when you talk about an organization and the success of an organization. Probably I'm talking about the future organization, technology organization, industries. How do you think that blockchain is going to help these organizations? Is there anything that you can comment on that?
I do not want to completely deviate from what Kamesh said, because then it becomes very different discussion altogether. Let us start from what Kamesh started.
Okay.
So maybe we have to request Kamesh to give the people who are listening here some fraction of NFTs for people who wanted to use Jumpstart.
In fact, I had requested him to do a demo also. Probably, I don't know if he's ready to do that, but then I had requested him to do a demonstration of something as well.
So I bought NFTs there, so probably he can give some free NFTs to the listeners here. So the coming back to, let us start with what the organization may look at. See, again, blockchain is a technology. Again, this technology also mixes with all the other things. It is not going to completely change everything in the world, right? So it's part of some ecosystem, which is Web 3.0 is broader than one use case like blockchain. They have other huge use cases which is looked at coming up. And all this, if you look at any technology which came in, the first thing which impacted was the two industry. One industry I don't want to talk. Another industry is the gaming. So they adapt technology in the beginning. And that is how the people get used to technology. That is how they start having their creative way of utilizing a technology to the next, any domains you wanted. There are other set of activity which is happening in DeFi from the Babus, because I do not want to leave Babu also in this discussion. The decentralized finance is what people talk about. As he was rightly mentioning, when the Japanese, what the thought he had is, if I have to exchange money between two people, I owe 100 rupees to somebody, I just give 100 rupees to somebody. Why the bank in the middle? Why the bank has to take money from us in the middle? That is a question which was actually poised for this whole development which happened on this Ethereum development, as well as the blockchain, as well as the Bitcoin. The same question was asked to me by somebody in a ecosystem. They asked me, do you still believe these cryptos are all real and these NFTs? I don't appreciate all these things. I said, first thing, sir, in a lunch table like this, is a very senior, seasoned entrepreneur. So I asked him, sir, suppose if you wanted to send money to your son in US, how can you send? He wants 5 lakhs today. Can you send it? He said, no, I have to go to the bank. Then the bank has to agree certain work which has to be done. And then they send it in 2-3 days, you will get this 5 lakhs to his son. I said, in today's world, I can transfer this 5 lakhs in just 2 minutes. And probably you just convert that into a USDT and then you just transfer it to him and he can convert that into US dollars, full stop. It is legal now in India also. I have to declare, that's all. I don't need to do anything. So this, you look at how the organization now will start changing. Two things has happened in the legally. I can declare in the assets books that how many cryptos I can have, even personally as well as officially. Continued with that is, so my assets can be in different cryptos or blockchains, any cryptos or other currencies which is there. As well as what Kamesh touched upon, but he did not extend it, is he was talking about different use case, even non-fungible token of individuals who are here. Imagine their certificate, their learning certificate becomes an NFT. So they are that, and you keep adding to it whatever you wanted. Then it becomes, an individual becomes NFT. I'll give you a bigger example which I went through it. One individual somewhere in Europe, he wanted to travel across US. He did not have money. So what he did is, he made this fungible but not NFT. He is an NFT, but he has actually separated his time into a fungible thing and said anybody who can buy that time, he is willing to spend the time to do some skilled work there in that particular place during his travel. He did not have money to travel. He collected $20,000 in a couple of hours to make sure that he is able to get the money and travel. Now, what happened here is your time, which is not visible for you, which is futuristic, which is can be made it fungible. Then you sell, give it as a coins, and then it becomes easy for us to transact. You come to the other extreme. An individual is an NFT in the sense I am not fungible. My time is fungible, but my skills are not. Already, I have just gathered so much of skill, so I can make myself as an NFT, and then probably somebody have to buy my time. They can buy me together if it required. So the use cases for a industry is going to evolve, but one thing I will tell you, the last to adapt will be the industry, because the changes which they perceive, which they have to bring it to any of this ecosystem, it is pretty difficult for them to initially conceive and make sure that they use it. But the youngsters who are now coming into the companies, they all start looking at, can you pay my incentive in crypto?
Okay.
Right? Why should you just see, for us today, there are two things happen. If I have to join a startup, they give ESOP to me, right?
Correct.
Then during joining, they give me bonus. All that is there. Now imagine that I start giving this in a crypto and tie it to the time through which they have to stay with me. Right? Now possibly today, let us not talk about today, but in future it will all get settled in terms of the value of crypto will not fluctuate this way. But over a period of time, what will happen is I'll start gathering cryptos and I have a liberty to exchange whenever I wanted, wherever I wanted. So this is a huge use case which is going to be there. The company itself issuing shares will start shifting into issuing coins. The assets can be made as a coins and issued instead of selling the whole company. So this all conceptually, from individual to a company, it is all the similar things. But conceptually, this has been conceived. The same time, when I speak, there are hundreds of people working on this. But which is going to be successful and how this use case is going to be implemented is we have to see over a period of time. That is why they call, Kamesh can explain later, but they call it as DAO, decentralized autonomous organization, which is going to be the future, because I strongly believe, as Kamesh was telling, somebody controls centrally. I had a very interesting discussion on a football. When the Russian-Ukraine war happened, one of the football club was removed from the European League. Imagine the football club's value has been created by the fans and the players. Nobody had the say to do that activity. Imagine a club which has a 50% ownership by the people who invested, all the rest by the fans and the people who participate. The whole thing will look very different. The decisions will be very different. And the fans are engaged into it. Today, fans are not engaged. They are kept outside to make money only. You don't make the fans engaging. But everybody is breaking the head. How do I engage my fans separately? So this is something which is very, very different use cases which getting built. And you will see maybe in next 3-4 years, you will see many of the DAOs which comes in, because communities, as he was mentioning, if the community takes decision, that decision goes long way and it will be more stable. So your country will become a community. Small countries will become a community by itself. That is what my perception is. I can talk the similar length in finance, but I leave it to Babu to initiate that and something comes up.
Thanks, Mani. In fact, I wanted to talk about two things here. Like probably we should also have a kind of a terms and conditions here, because we are talking about cryptos and bitcoins in a lot. I don't know, probably if students are thinking of buying them and things like that. So probably we should have, like, the mutual fund says, the risk is yours and things like that. Probably that is something that we should say.
It's a myth, right? That is a myth. You carry 100 rupees in your pocket.
Correct.
I carried 5 years back. It's a different value from what I carry today. The
Very
same 100 rupees carried.
Very true.
Value. So
And also the word fungible, you've been talking about. I think it's a commercial word wherein a commodity can be exchanged with equal value. I think it's a very commercial word, and nowadays it is being used in HR. We have fungible skills and fungible talents and things like that, and right now we're talking about in technology as well, wherein we're talking about non-fungible tokens and things like that. So probably it's pretty interesting that the word fungible by itself. So probably, Amiz, you want to add something? You were about to say something. Did I interrupt?
So I'll finish off with the finance, which is something which is very interesting for him to pick it up later.
Sure,
So
sir. Please go on.
if we have to buy a share, right? If I have to buy a share, I have to buy one whole share. Imagine that I have to buy a share which is quoting at 15,000 rupees. I do not have money. I have 500 rupees. I want to buy that share. You cannot buy the share earlier. Today it is possible because they buy it, make it fungible, and give you coins for 500 rupees. You part own that one share.
Correct.
Now this throws a whole lot of open for everybody to participate in any of this asset-based financial transaction for example, I know a company which, suppose I have a lakh of rupee, I want to buy Amazon, I want to buy Apple, I wanted to buy XYZ company. You cannot buy because one share is more than a lakh of rupee. So I want to buy all these things and I say that I want 10% of Amazon, 20% of Apple. I can quote like this for this 1 lakh rupee, and still I can go and buy this equity at that fungible sizes. So now what it throws very differently, I'll give a very extreme example. They are working on hedge funds. Hedge funds nobody actually buys because common users doesn't have that knowledge, and they do not have such a money to buy in one contract. So I will go to the extreme side. There is in UK, there is a palace which has been rented and the lease is there. What they did is the lease for a few years has been made as an fungible tokens, and people started buying it. Now what happened is, next to 20 years of money the palace have collected. Now these people have the equity to collect when the rent comes, it all divided between the people who are buying these tokens. So now what happened is, imagine that futuristically everything can be made as this way, and then there need not be an ecosystem. All these are made possible for only one reason: blockchain.
So you're saying that blockchain is going to change
already changed. If somebody is very interested to look at, I'll tell you a bank, aave.com. Just go and look at that bank. That bank is not managed by anybody. You cannot believe.
Excellent. That's a interesting one. Probably. Thank you for MVS on that. In fact, so we're talking more on crypto. We're still not touched upon gaming. I mean, I'm interested to hear that. But before that, students who are listening to this, probably if you have any questions, you can post your questions on the chat window. Please do that. So one of the things that probably this is more with respect to finance in terms of crypto. We talked about few words, few terminologies. Web3. We talked about blockchain, which is, I'm still kind of intrigued about it in terms of, and crypto as well. So how do you differentiate these three terminologies, like Web3, blockchain, and crypto? Over to Babu.
Yeah. Actually, it has to perhaps start with a very quick, recap of the evolution of Web 1, Web 2, Web 3, right? So Web 1 primarily was a static web. And what you need to remember, it was only created by developers. So nobody was, the public, the users were not contributing to the web during the Web 1. It was only developers publishing certain information on the public, and people were consuming it, right? So it was essentially a web that allowed more for reading as opposed to writing. So that's where Web 2 came into picture, where people now started not only to read what was there in the web, people also started to contribute. So read and write, both were possible in the Web 2 movement, right? So and And an evolution to that, the platform economy was created. We talked about what a platform means and how large companies today, the GAFAs of the world, the Metas of the world, have created an economy out of that read and write model. However, the only gap there in Web 2 was the users were not taking the key decisions of how the economy should be distributed over different users groups within the Web 2 community, right? So that's where the Web 3 comes into picture, which is essentially from a platform economy, we are moving more towards a token economy. So every user could own a token, and he actually decides, or the community, the 51% community decides, how that token should be valued. And when people exchange those tokens, who takes the cut and how that particular token is authenticated and identified and so on. So that is a quick recap of Web 1, Web 2, and Web 3. So if you actually look at what Web 3 is all about, it is really the vision behind the next version of internet. Even though I say it's next version, it's been there for many years already. So it's essentially the next movement is the larger vision for the internet. So that's really the Web3. It is primarily a sort of a decentralized, self-custody based and a very transparent version of internet, compared to what we experience today. And so that's really the first part, the Web3. So now let's look at blockchain. So blockchain, we discussed quite a lot in terms of what it really means. It really means a distributed database technology or a distributed ledger technology, right? So when people talk about blockchain, they're actually talking about the underlying database technology, underlying protocol, underlying set of rules. And this really comes from the white paper that was published in 2008. So most of the time when people talk about blockchain, it is actually the geeks and the developers who has to deal with this particular level of technology, which is the blockchain, right? So the next one is the crypto. So we talked about Web3, blockchain, and then the crypto. Crypto is really the business angle. So that's the business lens you need to apply, when you talk about Web3 or blockchain. So that is the first use case that has been implemented on top of blockchain. So cryptos like Bitcoin and Ethereum, and there are many platforms like that. So they come into the play when it comes to people contributing and people exchanging values. So that's really the first use case when it comes to the blockchain, right? So Web3, blockchain, and crypto, they have to be used in different contexts for different audience, and they all carry different meanings. Yeah, I just want to make sure that the audience understands these three differences. Yeah.
Thanks, Babu, for that. You talked about blockchain as a distributed ledger technology, and you clearly differentiated Web 1, Web 2, and Web 3. And you also talked about crypto is one of the first use cases of blockchain. Thank you for that.
And I can perhaps extend just one point here, George, is that so crypto. What crypto really is nothing but a digital asset, right? So it is really the digital way of representing a particular value. So it really comes under the broad category of what digital asset is. So digital asset is digitally, how do you represent a particular value, right? And there are 4 types of digital assets. I mean, broadly speaking, crypto is just sort of one of them. The second one is the security token, which is exactly what MVSR was talking about. People could now buy a fraction of bonds or a fraction of a particular equity and stock. And with the digital asset concept, everything will be fractionalized. So you don't have to buy at the market unit level. You could actually further fractionalize. So you can actually create an entire economy around fractionalizing any digital assets. So you could actually own a piece of the famous painting because people could buy a fraction of that particular piece of art in the token form, something like that. So that's the second part, the security token. The third part is the stable coin. The reason it they purposely added the stable before the coin is because it is really pegged against the fiat currencies. So the valuation doesn't fluctuate quite a lot, unlike what we've seen with the other cryptocurrencies. The last one is the NFT. So NFT is also a form of digital asset. People would like to create and own it and monetize out of it. So I just want to make sure that crypto, when we talk about crypto, please keep in mind, crypto is just one part of the digital assets. There are 3 more popular digital assets that are there in practice. Yeah.
Thank you, Babu. So while we're talking about these blockchain and its use cases, its application, probably to help the students who are listening here, I think I'm sure that this question is there in their mind in terms of what are some of the careers and roles that probably you might get in terms of once you are an expert in blockchain. And to add to that, also one more thing probably would help them is to understand how it would impact their personal career, and what are some of the things that they should learn to probably it could be a part of their curriculum, or it could be something that they have to get, probably it could be extracurricular, or probably something that you have to learn from outside their curriculum, whatever it may be. What are some of the things that they should be conscious about if they want to be a part of this technology? Anybody can take that, anybody who's interested can throw some light on this.
Sure.
Kamesh,
I
you
think
have to answer.
Babu can take care.
No, Kamesh, you have to tell.
Yeah, you have to tell. You actually employ people who knows the technology. So
I would suggest, nowadays the world is changed, I think before 10 years, people want to work for big companies like, TCS, Infosys, Wipro. Now the shift is slowly changing. People are picking up a right startup who are really, doing a interesting technology. Right. I would suggest, my advice to the students is something, I never believed in, getting into training institute and learning something about blockchain or any technology. So what you want to do, you want to really experiment with it. So there are a lot of interesting online classes which can educate you the fundamentals of blockchain, and then you should join a startup and then take a real-time exposure, work with them so that you get a lot of exposure around it. So I would suggest they take, like, say, my saddest part is I am also engineer, sir. I'm sure you all able to understand. So right, like backbenchers like me, so we have 30 backlogs in the 6th semester, able to understand blockchain and able to build company. And then I think the guys who are the colleges, what we are talking is all smart guys and very good college. I think everybody can easily learn. So it is not very difficult to learn or something. It requires focus and the attention. So I think I would suggest people should really work for a startup, and initially maybe first 3-4 years is very important to work for a startup. They get a lot of real-time exposure. Then they can always go for a corporate and have a good easy life. But startup life is not going to be easy. So you can't expect 8 hours of duty. It requires a lot of R&D and research, but it's a lot of fun also because you will be able to ideate a lot of new things. So you should really get into blockchain. You should pick a right startup, work for them, and they don't want to care about the package that all the big company offers. Even the package is small also, go and work for a startup for first 3 years. After 3 years, I think you will get a real-time exposure. Then offers will comes to you. You don't have to worry about the offer. So I think the initial foundation, what I see, many potential engineering guys they will get a placement in college, and then they would have work for a support, right? Supports tech support and those kind of role where they may not get lot of exposure towards building technology and everything. I think now people became now students became smart. They're not going based upon the package alone. So they look for a right team and interesting product and everything. So that is what I think that the shift is already into the place right now. So my advice is to work for a startup, get a real-time exposure. Then I think you can build your career. You don't have to worry about a recession or layoff and everything. So if you have skill, no one will lay off you. So everybody want a skillful guy work for us, and whatever happens to the company, always try to retain a good potential people. So you have to be there. All is possible by putting the first 3 years of effort and getting a real-time exposure as much possible, instead of having a cool job like having 8 hours of job. Take a very risky startup. Even startup fails also, you get a lot of exposure. So that is what my suggestion is.
Excellent.
I will add to it, George.
Yeah, sorry.
This is one subject which
Okay.
probably come back to me from various sources and what we should learn. See, primarily I suggest that every individuals who are listening to this, probably they have to put their head down, and then when they are there in 3 years in that college or 4 years in the college, they have to sincerely attempt to learn. That is no shortcut for it. And if you want to really come into a technology side, you have the courses like C, C++. That is a fundamental for any shift which has happened throughout this period. I know C, C++, which was there even 25 years back. And today also C, C++, which is much more prevalent in even in this Web 3.0 world. That becomes a fundamental for them. Then they have to understand, if you wanted to get into Web 3.0, you become an hacker, you understand cryptography, you understand algorithms, you understand all those things. Even if you do not been taught in the college, you type Web 3.0 on YouTube, it will lead to the best courses available in the whole world. Because as soon as you see YouTube, you start seeing one thing, it will lead to another. They'll say that many people looked at it the same way what you looked at this. Just continue to look at it, will lead you to the best place where you can learn all by yourself. You don't need to be sitting in the class, even without, if not being taught well, probably you can pick it up from the, it's not taught, not that it's not taught well, you may not appreciate the way you wanted to appreciate. Then the thinking, the other thing is that you should have a design patterns which is probably continue to be ruling in these kind of technology changes. You have to start understanding those. Then the end of the day, the database structures and how it has been formed, that doesn't change at all. See, if you really look at in Web 3.0, most of the technologies which is there, they, for example, Python, they will start adapting to the world which is Web 3.0. C, C++, they'll start adapting to it. Database, Oracle, you will see next 2 years, Oracle will start adapting to this. You need not go in search of whether should I learn separately for this? No. You learn whatever you have learned in little more deeper. And again, like Kamesh said, the first experience of your getting into a company and then you getting it the real time, you will really appreciate what you have learned. If you have the gap also, you will appreciate when you are doing it. But you will know if you don't know where you have to go and then look at. Because in these kind of technologies, there are very few people who can teach you exactly what you have to do. You have to have your creativity to get it done. But if your core technology is strong, I think your creativity will automatically be added to it because there are so many contents available. So this is my submission of what these youngsters have to do. Enjoy learning, enjoy working. You will be there where you want it. And you start playing games, right? So you play games, because all these programs in Web 3.0, what was very fascinating for me is, if I have to build something, everything is already available free. Only I have to put it, assemble it, and then do it. Tomorrow I can build a company on the Web 3.0 in a day's time. If you know how to assemble that, that's all.
Excellent.
That is a huge changed world. I cannot believe so much of been created already. I do not know how many people were working there. Continue to work. Every day you wake up, something is new.
So, in fact, that is a good difference between, for the same question, I got two responses, like, from a millennial like Kamesh, he was talking, backbencher like me, probably I don't believe in training institutes and things like that. Experimentation is the best learning, and then from MVS, he was talking about get back to the fundamentals, understand C and C++, and, probably do some more. And I'm sure that, both these advices are very important in terms of, I believe in, and probably I echo what Kamesh said in terms of experimentation is the key, and also you learn a lot from this the startup organization there. And I'm one of the example there in terms of, in a startup, decisions are faster and things like that. Probably you will do end to end, and so the learning is also much higher than a large organization where it's highly process driven and you'll be doing only a small part there. So over to, in fact, Babu was trying to respond to this question initially, and probably Kamesh and Nebius talked about. Babu, probably if you can add more. to this? Like, you know,
The issue with speaking as a third person is Kamesh and MVS had sort of set the benchmark so high. I always find it very difficult to match to the sort of standards in their response. I think a couple of things. I'm going to tell something the audience probably would already know. The learning never stops, right? People would have told them that, okay, after 10th, okay, you just have to finish 12th. After 12th, just get a degree and get a job. Your life will be settled. It's absolutely wrong. There is no way people can take a back seat and relax and lead a good life today. Okay, the prices are going to go up. Your needs will definitely go up. So you will need to have the mindset of what Amazon CEO calls the pursuit of constant learning. So that's number one. So the learning never stops. Number two, in my view, getting a foundational understanding of anything that goes on in the industry as a major trend. Make sure you get you grab a fundamental understanding and become very strong in it. Like, what is blockchain? Blockchain is a technology to eliminate an intermediary so that the real community takes the decision of what happens in that community. So you have to come to that basic one-liner kind of an understanding on anything that goes on. For that, you have to spend a lot of time in understanding the basics. So what I will do perhaps in the chat window, share with you a free open course from MIT in US on blockchain and money. So this is actually taught by a professor called Gary Gensler, who is an advisor to the US government, Mr. Joe Biden's president's advisor. So it's a 20 lecture video. So you just have to go through the videos and really understand. So it's actually a real-time classroom recording of what actually happened in MIT for the course. So it's highly insightful. You will get to see all the interaction that goes on between the professor and the students. So I think I would say that get pretty strong in the foundation and basics. And lastly, just learning technology by itself, I don't think it is sufficient. You need to also follow an industry that you like. You could pick up banking and finance. You could pick up retail. You could pick up healthcare. You could pick up tourism or anything. So every time you learn a technology, make sure you also learn an industry. The industry perhaps that uses the technology most, or the industry that uses the technology the least. It is your choice, and everybody has personal choices, right? They have a personal choice for their color, for their food. So you should also choose an industry that you think sort of align with your values, with your background, in the place you are from, and so on. So to me, learn technology, the basics, get pretty strong in it. There are plenty of material out there. My personal advice, don't go into the YouTube University and Google University. It is very hard for you to follow what is the most authentic and proven material. Rather, go to the top universities. Everybody today publishes free online courses. So just follow the top universities like MIT and learn the basics, and make sure you also follow an industry. You can choose any industry, no matter which engineering course you are doing, be it ECE, EEE, CSE, follow an industry and make sure you apply the learning from technology on that particular industry. Yeah.
thanks, Babu. In fact, I liked what you said just now. You mentioned that, apart from learning technology, you also understand one industry, whatever you like. And one thing that you said was really interesting. You said that industry that uses the technology the most and uses the technology the least, because I'm sure that people might not think that way. The industry that uses the technology the least, because I'm sure that there will be more opportunities there, where technology is used least in some of the industries. And so that was pretty useful. Okay, so one of the things, when we talked about decentralization and things like that in using blockchain, so I had this doubt whether governments, because governments like to control most of the things, like, so would the blockchain be accepted by governments? Because I feel that the governments would lose control in many areas, or probably even larger organizations might lose control, by what Kamesh and all of you said. So what is your take on that, in terms of, do you think that blockchain would be accepted by all the governments, and would it be kind of the future? Is it a good question to ask?
It is a very good question, and something that I don't think I myself have a very convincing answer for that question. But let me attempt, right? So firstly, academically speaking, there are two types of blockchain. Right? One is the public version, and the other one is the private version of or private implementation of a blockchain. Public version is where anybody can come in as a particular participant, and they can act as a node which authorizes that particular transaction that goes on in blockchain. So they also become a contributor via a particular node. So that's really the public version of blockchain, and a lot of companies operate on this public space. And there is a private blockchain in which only the selected members of the community will act as the decision makers within that particular blockchain network. So there will be a very selected set of members who can actually up what's going on within the particular blockchain. So there are two versions of the same blockchain. That's the first thing that I wanted to share. Secondly, governments, what are they doing about this particular trend? Imagine if blockchain, the whole purpose of blockchain is to take with that will be the agency, right? So what they are doing, I have not seen a lot of new policies or anything like that, though there are a lot of policies on crypto and how a portfolio should be diversified and etc. So there's a lot of controls going on in the crypto. You take any country, there are a lot of discussions going on today with respect to how to regulate on crypto space. Okay, so that is definitely going on, right? However, the other interesting trend that I'm also seeing that has already happened in China and India, it is also slowly happening, is the CBDC, which is the central bank digital coin. So people are trying to see, okay, the technology is good. Yes, there are some constraints to it in terms of how a central party can play a role, but they're taking that into serious consideration, and they're trying to see how we can now distribute the fiat currencies over this particular kind of technology. So the whole concept of CBDC is becoming popular, but I have very limited understanding of who will play the role of who will take the decision in that. Will it be still single party? If it is single party, can I still call that as a blockchain or not? So there's a lot of unknowns in that space. But what I can tell you is that in crypto, at least, the governments are waking up. A lot of people are putting a lot of controls over how the crypto transactions are taking place in a given economy. Yeah.
Thank you.
So I have an interesting answer for this. So let's say we all know torrents, right? So the torrent which we used to download movies, and then watch before movie comes to the theater, we used to see movies, right? We can't stop that, right? The government tried various ways to stop it. They came with a lot of website, legal coming, a lot of activities happens. But whatever happened, people used to see movies in the first day because of the torrent, right? So after some point, what happened because of the evolution? Okay, finally, you can't watch. You should. Every celebrities used to tell us, okay, you should go and watch movie on theater, not in your TVs. What happened because of this COVID? So the theaters are closed, right? They themselves told, okay, go and watch the movies in Netflix and Amazon. So that is the evolution of technology, right? We can't stop the evolution, whatever happened. So as government smartly knows it, that they can't stop it, so they have to adapt to it so that they can charge the tax, right? So if you take Amazon, now you can watch KGF movie by spending 100 rupees, and then they give high quality instead of seeing low quality versions of movie from torrent. Better pay 100 rupees and see the high quality movie finally. So that is the way the technology penetration is something we can't stop it, right? Very similar to that, this blockchain and crypto also, government is not really trying to stop it. They all know. I see this trend from 2005 to 2022, in the 17 years, the same situation happened with e-commerce also, right? And e-commerce, that people are totally against to e-commerce, because if e-commerce penetrate to the business of retail, what will happen? A lot of big retail have to close the shop, right? Every big giants are against to e-commerce. But what happened? We can't stop it, right? It slowly penetrated, right? Very similar to that, even for the internet. If you see the early newspapers on 2000, you see internet is fade, and then it is not getting adoption, it is failing. So that is the way people are talking about internet. Lot of why? Because if internet penetration happen, the world becomes so flat, right? Now if I want to hire someone from US, I can just go to online, talk to someone, I can hire them. So we were talking from various part of the world right now. It's all because of the internet. So the government clearly knows if internet is penetrating, we can't put lot of taxes and duty and a lot of other charges in between, because the discussion happens online. They can't control it. But what happened? They created a law, and then they're trying to put a charge and tax for it, and then some way they're able to work with the evolution of internet. Very similar to that, I would say this blockchain also. Government in April 1st recently, government came up with a solution that better whatever gain you get through crypto, pay me 30% out of it. Right, that is the conclusion they came in. Because if you are against to this, what will happen? You can't control it. It's better to go organized way. So government came to this decision that let me charge 1% TDS on all the transactions whatever you do, and then 30% of your gain. For example, if you put $100, if you made $200 as a profit, $100 is profit, right? Out of which 30% you have to pay to the government. So that is the way government came with a clear regulation now. So it's very clear, because they are seeing this technology evolution. You can't stop it. You have to work and adapt to it, as he told rightly, that then the central bank is thinking about launching their own cryptocurrency now. So that they can adapt, they can track citizens, they try to charge taxation and everything as much possible, so that the government can run. So they will really adapt to the situation. So I'm not saying it will really overtake the government, and then government will give a country's currency will lose the power or something like that. But this already became a very powerful currency. So Bitcoin, which is something where you can take any part of the world and you can convert to the local fiat. It has become like a world currency right now. So it is a good evolution. It is more like a internet money kind of approach. USD is more like a US money, but Bitcoin is more became like internet money. So there is adoption. So I would definitely see there is a very good progress from the government. They are taking it positive. They really want to work with the Web3 companies and coming up with a taxation structure, and then try to charge the tax, and that is the way the world is moving towards.
Okay, thank you. In fact, there's one question from the audience. So Rajagopal is asking, like, with current cryptocurrency market having heavy recession, is it any good to keep investing more and more for more assets in the blockchain, or is it better to keep the profit and keep minimal investments?
I think we were discussing a lot of things of the education, but he came with a very interesting question. But I don't want to give a advice to him.
Yeah.
But what I would say, but these ups and downs are always very common in this blockchain world. When I was buying Bitcoin for $100, and then it's became $3,000, and it crashed back to around $20. So all this kind of things that happens before. It is always the journey. So I would suggest always you should not take too much of risk, right? So you should have a small taste on this. That is fine, but taking too much of risk purely depend on crypto, I would not suggest that. So you always try to do something, because you should always have advantages of investing on new technologies. So you can invest something on it, but don't want to put your entire life into the crypto. So instead of that, put a education effort and try to build more crypto technologies and everything. That is something that I would suggest. That is even better, instead of just simply sitting in investing on crypto.
Probably we have time for one more question, possibly. I think it's also covered before. The question from Madhivendan is, what is the future scope of blockchain technology in India, and how much should I invest if I have to start a startup? Can you guide me in that? Is there a government support for this? Is there anybody who can respond to that?
Yeah, I think MES there is the perfect person, because he works with the government.
Are you hearing me?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yes.
So probably I like to answer the previous question also. Any investment, you cannot be dependent on one asset class. This
Correct.
is one set of asset classes. Since the fluctuation is very high, I think you have to keep it at minimum, so that you can shift from the earnings what you have, you shift it to other asset classes and bring it back when it is down. So the behavior of an investor in the sense in the stock market is similar. Every time everything goes up, you keep buying. When it comes down, you keep selling. So the problem is you are doing the reverse. So you be conscious. This is also an asset class. Have a minimum exposure to the asset class, but you also get exposed to other asset classes. The behaviors of the investors are the similar. So coming back to the second question, how much for a startup? You have a good idea. I think Kamesh himself will invest, right? So there is no point of how much investment is required. You should have a good idea, in the sense you should have gone depth into what you wanted to do, convince somebody like Kamesh or me that okay, this idea can work and we all can actually benefit from the effort which you are going to put. Whether it is going to be huge success or not is a separate story altogether. But if you really look at, government is going to adapt this blockchain in a very, very large way in most of the domains, be it healthcare, be it banking, be it what do you call that, any of the certification issues, all this, even the skills. Government may have a skill, what do I call that, skill locker kind of a thing, where individuals like Aadhaar, they will have the skill thing there in the government portal. I think everybody should be aware by now. India is the only country who has the India stack. No other country in the world has stack like what India has. And that is something which government will start quickly adapting into this blockchain. There are already so much of work is going on. So the blockchain is going to be it is going to be an underlying what do you call that, databases or application across in many areas, because this is something which revolutionized a centralization, which government, cost of centralization for the government is much higher to manage that whole thing. So anybody has an idea, who has who understood this space, and they are able to bring out an idea and say that okay, I have an idea, is there an investment? Investments are waiting. Government themselves can have an investment if you are working on those areas. If you are working on gaming, or if you are working on finance and all that, I'll tell you one example. Somebody has built for agriculture. The company is known as TraceX, TRACEX. What they do is any agriculture produce. Now, future is going to be everybody is going to talk about green technologies, ESGs, environmental friendly and all that. And people will start buying only those kind of a product if you wanted to do exports. So now what they do is they start tracing right from the seed level to the final production, to the, even after the value addition, they trace. Suppose if you wanted to buy a shirt, if we had been traceable to the extent where this shirt has come from this particular seed and from particular what do you call field, and this particular production unit, and it has been into the shirt, they are tracing from seed to the shirt. So they call it as the company known as TraceX. I met them some 4 years back. Now they have grown into multiple bigger size, and now there are many agriculturists wanted to use this. So you just think of any of the use cases in depth. You will find many use cases across. And if you don't find, you come back to me. Probably I will tell you what are the use cases which you can go and research. And Kamesh can give tons. He's waiting somebody to take some problems. So this is something which, as an input, I'll just leave it to them.
Okay, excellent. In fact, what I felt when I started this entire discussion was like, probably I thought 1.5 hours was too long. And now I feel that it's the other way around, like, blockchain, it's a small name, and, probably I think we can speak for 1 more hour on that. That's what I feel, because probably we never touched upon something called application of blockchain in various industries. What are the industries that we can talk about in education, in healthcare, in retail, in manufacturing, probably in finance? And we talked about finance a little bit, and even in technology by itself, but probably gaming and things like that. But then we could have spent more time. I'm sure that, probably if we have more time, we can talk about all those industries and how blockchain probably could be applied to most of these industries. Anything else, like probably what could be your last, like this is the last question that probably each speaker can take a minute and probably respond. What is your advice to the student in terms of, like, probably if they want to get into blockchain, is there any advice and what could be the takeaway from this, one or two takeaways from this discussion to the students? Yeah.
So I'll perhaps quickly give a summary, right? So I think we talked quite a lot about blockchain as a technology by itself. Even though we are only in the beginnings, I don't think there is any hype. I don't think it is still in the hype stage. I think there's a lot of companies and organizations strongly believe that this is a proven technology. This can be used for their existing business use cases. So it's not, I don't think it is still in the hype cycle. I think that's the first takeaway. So we are not talking about something that's going to come in 20, 30 years time. So it is actually pretty much live. It is used in multiple industries and people have seen the benefits the technology can bring to the industry. That's number one. Secondly, it's going to have a lot of impact to the way the internet and the web applications are going to be built. Kamesh gave an example, even a game could be built as an NFT, right? So strongly believe that there are a lot of use cases out there that are yet to be built using these technologies. Lastly, a number that could perhaps that I can share. So based on the reports from the top consulting firms, by 2030, India will have additionally at least 3.2 million jobs in this technology as per the report. So the opportunity is there. The technology, learning and materials are out there. You have a lot of industry experts who are willing to share and contribute to the career growth of the audience that are there. So go for it, believe in it, get trained and yeah, dream big and solve big problems. Yeah.
Thank you, Babu. So that was pretty interesting. 3.2 million jobs. I mean, this is only with respect to blockchain that you spoke right now. 3.2 million.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
Okay. Who's going next?
Yeah. So the
There's
if
been a-
the if imagine that it is 3.2 million only on blockchain, the technology around that it is requirement is 3 times. Because blockchain is it's a kind of, you have to think of use case and you have to build a front end and the other sides, right? So including fintech and including the what do I say, front end, all that you need 3 times higher number of people. Because again, even if you look at Kamesh's organization, the number of people required for just to build a community is a huge number of people required. Right? So engagement, huge number of people is required. So he looks at not only technology, he needs people in various other areas. So if this technology is going to be predominant next 1 decade, you will see that. But what will happen is it will become a kind of commodity, blockchain. You will have ample number of solutions available in the market just free of cost. But if you are able to build from there, if you're able to build a solution from there, probably you will have so much of jobs which has been created. But what company like Kamesh runs is they want people with little more thinking on technology. People have done some research work on areas around it, who can actually integrate few things with them, test it, so that when it comes to the public, it becomes easy for them to use it without any issues. Because this is going to be, since you are building a community, like otherwise, if a software fails, you will be just messaging somewhere or putting it in some place. Here, the whole community will come to know. In click of the button, everybody will know this is some problem there. So you have a very different, robust testing is required before you do just. Imagine UI. The whole world is completely shifting to UI. And we have spoken about every domain. One domain which we have not spoken, which is now used, is marketing.
Hmm.
Whole world of metaverse is going to be on this space. And if you touch that, there are other like AR, VR, you have all the other technologies which is coming into play. This Web 3.0 alone is going to create various different jobs. If he says around 3 million, I am saying that around 10 million is required globally surrounding this ecosystem.
Fair enough.
Yeah, so I think I
Yes.
also agree the point because it's not about only programming. There are many students they may not great in programming. They will able to think better, so they may be a great designer, or else like digital marketing guys, content thinking people, so who can really think content for YouTube. There are other than programming in the Web3 technologies, still like other spaces around Web3 is also going to really grow. That is what he was trying to explain. So it is not about only programming. So it is not about only blockchain. So if you can get an understanding on the digital marketing for Web3, and for example, or else I would say other than programming, the PR is the one more activity. Now creating content on YouTube is a one more skill. So every skill around the fundamentals of Web3 knowledge is going to have a huge demand. Right now, people don't understand the world of Web3. So if there's a normal digital marketing guy, there may not have too much of demand because there are tons of people who already know digital marketing. But a guy who understands Web3, blockchain, and crypto, and also understands digital marketing, then the guy is having a huge requirement, and there is a huge demand for those kind of people. So other than technology, our own Web3, there is going to be plenty of jobs going to create. Yeah, I think we don't have to worry if you are not great in programming. So programming is just one part of it. Other than programming, there are business analysts where who understand business, who can understand technology, make a very good wireframe, or a UI designer, and then like digital marketing guys, and there is a plenty of opportunities around Web3. So if you don't understand programming, even it's fine. So you can just try to understand the fundamentals of Web3 and try to figure out something which is something wherever you are passionate about. So that is what my advice and suggestion would be.
Thank you, Kamesh, and that brings us to the close of this panel discussion. And I would like to thank Babu. He has posted the link for the MIT course that he was speaking about. So he's posted it on the chat window. So for all the students can click on that and probably do the course on on blockchain. Finally, I'm quite happy and delighted to understand. Probably for me to understand blockchain, all of you have kind of broken blockchain into smaller pieces and smaller chunks for me to understand that better. And I'm sure that all the students and the audience listening to this also would feel the same. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So, thank you, Babu. So thank you, William. So thank you, students. I think it's a fantastic session. So I never attend such kind of online events mostly. It is a kind of new experience for me. So I always work in doing programming and operating and delivering. So it's kind of 1 hours of good discussion and make me so relaxed. Thank you very much for such an opportunity for me. So yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, Kamesh, for being here, and in fact, all your discussions and points were quite useful, quite insightful, is what I should say. Thank you.
Go see Kamesh and Jumpstart. You will see Kamesh there. This Kamesh is not the real Kamesh.
Thanks, MVS.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Over to Williams. Thank you all.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. George Koshi, for facilitating today's session. And also, I'd like to thank all the 3 eminent speakers for lending your time. In spite of all your busy schedule, your time, given your time to speak to the students and professionals today. I'll also like to thank the SPC College and the other colleges whom we had invited to join this for today's session. And I'd like to thank all the students for actively participating in today's session. This is the 3rd session that we have done today, and we have the 4th session coming up shortly, might be the end of this month, and we'll be circulating to your colleges. I request all the students to join in the session and be benefited as well. To be updated, I request you to kindly follow our webpage, that is www.sicci.in for further events that is coming up. And also, once again, I'd like to thank you. And
There's one question to SICCI. Can SICCI work to bring these technologies into college curriculum or at least to incubation centers? I think that's a good question. Probably, I'm sure that SICCI. I mean, that's the kind of objective of SICCI as well, in terms of being a kind of a bridge between academy and industry. So I'm sure that SICCI can help out on that. All right. Thank you very much.
thank you so much. Thank you.